stream. Alright, so supposedly both the stream and recording are going now. So welcome back, guys. I'm glad we all survived the horrendously long winter break. I believe this is either our 13th or our 14th session. The only real point of order I have to bring up is one the players already know. Our lovely counselor is unable to join us for this mission. And then the other thing, I still have to address it with my players. What I was thinking was, depending on people's feelings and whether or not there's interest in it, I was thinking of maybe introducing a sort of a guest character type situation. Obviously, I don't have a date or a time or even know if my players are amenable to that, but it's something I'm thinking about. So more details on that as events warrant. But unless anyone has any announcements of their own, I think we're ready for the captain's log.
Okay. Captain's log, stardate 48718.1. After the successful destruction of an unmanned Orion facility, the Arcadia is en route to the wormhole, where the Bellerophon is waiting. Admiral Haru and Starfleet intelligence firmly believe that the destruction of the wormhole is the only viable solution. This will require the Arcadia's assistance. At first, I was strongly opposed to this, but I now agree. However, I do not believe that we should do so before first determining how the Orions were able to achieve that which Starfleet could not for so long. We are due to rendezvous with the Bellerophon in the next 3 hours. In the meantime, I wish to form a plan with my bridge crew and speak with my first officer, who until recently has been distant since our mission ended.
All right, very good. So, would you like to start in the conference room or your office?
My ready room.
Your ready room. All right, move everyone over to this. All right, who are you calling in?
I want to talk to Crowley first.
All right, so Crowley, you received summons to the captain's ready room.
Hello, Captain.
Hello, Commander. Please sit down. If you'd like anything to drink, I'd be happy to replicate it for you.
I'm good, thank you.
I wanted to talk to you. After our last mission, I noticed that you had been a little distant from the crew for a few days. You've since returned to normal. I just wanted to ask if everything was all right.
As long as I've been doing my duty just fine, I'm doing fine.
No, your duty has not been affected, as far as I can tell. But I want to be a resource for you. If there's anything I can do for you to help you make your service here more enjoyable and more fulfilling, I'd like to know.
It's okay, Captain. I just wanted to focus on making sure that we wouldn't have any more surprises from the Orions.
Understandable. Well, if you do need anything, and if you don't want to talk to me, I completely understand that. I am your commanding officer. We do have an excellent counselor on board.
I'll keep that in mind.
Okay. But on to business, if you prefer. As you know, I was hesitant to agree to Admiral Haru in destroying the wormhole the Orions created. What are your thoughts on this?
If wormhole was in any other jurisdiction or any other culture's purview, it would be difficult to agree with her assessment as well. But it's the Orions. And not all of them are like how we've seen from the Syndicate, but their government isn't spick and span. They're not clean.
No, the Syndicate is notorious enough. I'm inclined to agree, but I can't help but wonder how the Orions even managed to do this. And I think the Federation would be better served if we knew how as well.
Well, they probably have their methods recorded somewhere. So I'm sure Starfleet might have some Black Ops organization that can go and get it. I'm not going to condone that, of course, but I'd rather not deal with the devil. If that makes sense, sir.
I was actually considering proposing to Admiral Haru that our crew obtain this information. Of course, I can't authorize that mission on my own, so it's not up to me.
Something like this would mean we would be disavowed if anything goes wrong. We would have to be perfectly willing and capable and to abandon someone if something does go wrong. That's that type of mission. If we are willing to do that, I can be ordered to.
No, I think that's all I need to know. Thank you, Commander. Unless there's anything else, you're dismissed.
Captain?
All right. So what's next on the docket? A senior staff meeting, perhaps?
I'm actually not going to call that meeting.
Okay. That case.
Once they,
oh, go
during
ahead.
that whole interview, Crowley just kept making a fist with his left hand and squeezing his arm.
Would I have noticed that at all?
You see him do it before, so you could just assume it's something that he normally does.
Why don't we do a momentum generator here, just because I've noticed a lot of my sessions don't start with one. Captain, if you would give me a insight, I believe it's insight command, and feel free someone can feel free to correct me, but I believe an insight command would be appropriate here to kind of judge what you saw. And the difficulty would be a 0.
All right. Just for the sake of argument, would team dynamics come into play for my focus?
I'll allow it. Sure, why not?
All right.
All right, you start off the session with 3 momentum. Good job. So obviously, without spoiling anything, and Crowley, you can feel free to correct me on this, you would have noticed or maybe received a few confidential or like anonymous reports that Crowley was doing the said motion a little bit more often recently. And there's at least one report from Andromeda that kind of indicates that Crowley was strangely distant when she talked to him once. But it was only that one time. After that one conversation, he seemed to return to normal, kind of a thing.
Okay.
Also, say since you got a critical, he's hiding pain.
Yeah, I mean, I think I know enough about your file to know about your phantom pains. I'm going to make sure that I send a message to the counselor just to make sure that he knows what's happening. He probably does, but I'll do that. And then I'm curious. So, where are my other officers? Like, what duties or recreations are they up to right now?
Let's deal with player characters first, and then we'll deal with NPCs. So, let's start with Matic. What are you up to?
Maddox probably on the holodeck.
Okay. What you doing on the holodeck?
I'm running my program.
Oh, you're running your program. Okay. Oh dear, I still have this set up for bears. 1 second. All right. Hopefully that gets rid of everyone. All right. So yeah, the program you're running at the moment is actually a extremely good replica of the situation you went through. You feel
also, because I know I'm the only one in here, I have lowered the safety protocols, and so like if I get injured, like I still have the bruises, I get the cuts, like I get all of that still.
Okay. I won't put you on the special map I had prepared yet, but I would like you to roll me at least one fitness plus con, just to see if you get injured, and if so, I'll roll some challenge die and we'll figure something out.
2d20.
Yep. Yeah. So either the fact that you've probably lived this scenario 100 times in your head, or that you've just done that good of a job replicating the entire scenario on the holodeck, you only come out with a few bumps and bruises. Um, I would say that is, again, either due to your familiarity of the scenario, or because the Orions may not be as vicious as you might have hoped. So it might be a fault with the computer, or it just might simply be you've done this enough to kind of, deal with it in a certain way.
Yeah. If anyone's around, they'll see Matic kind of walking out with a data pad, and he's talking to himself about it. Like, I need to increase this, I need to decrease this, I need to,
Okay. I'll say for sake of argument, you might run into Chief Hylong, and she'll just simply say, "Sir," and unless you stop her, she'll just keep walking.
Chief, how are sensors doing? I know we had, wasn't there some issue with them drawing not enough power?
Oh, one moment. So she walks back up to you and she says, the sensors. Yes, we sorry. We found that there was a problem with the reciprocating dynamo flow, and it was pulling a little too much power from the deflector. But to my knowledge, your engineering team fixed the issue.
All right. Do you have any more power issues or any other issues? You know where to find us.
Yes, and thank you for the prompt response, Lieutenant. I was actually kind of worried that we'd be a little bit low on power, but thanks again. And then,
No problem.
unless you stop her, she will resume her trek down the corridor.
Nope.
Okay.
Unless Matt gets called, he's going to engineering.
Okay. So let's do Rasho. Rasho, what are you up to?
Would it be a duty shift, or would Risho be off duty right now?
I would say the official start of Alpha Shift is in 2 hours, so you have free time.
Okay. Assuming that is the ship's morning, quote unquote.
Mm-hmm.
I would say Risho is probably in the officer's mess, maybe eating some breakfast. And I'd say he's going through a care package that he got from his mom's or his aunt's, and he's reading some comic books that they sent him or something.
Nice. Out of curiosity, what's his favorite comic book?
Spider Vulcan.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Yeah, let's do it this way. So, Sin. So obviously, I've gotten the feeling from past roleplay that you and Sin, who used to be at Ujesa, are kind of not in a very, shall we say, happy state. Obviously, you have your reservations. She has hers. Would that be a fair assessment?
I would say so, yeah.
Okay. So I don't have a map for the mess. I probably should get one. So we'll have to use a little bit of theater of mind here. So as you're dealing with your care package, Sin will get some food to eat of her own, and she will very politely and very not in like an intrusive way. She will kind of walk opposite you of the table and say, "Sir, may I sit with you and talk for a moment?"
Risho will kind of grimace for a moment and said, very, not slowly, but very precisely, I guess. Set down his book and close it and set it to the side and gesture the seeds in front of him and not say anything.
Okay. So she'll sit down and she'll slightly push her tray away as almost to indicate she mostly got it so that, it was for effect. But she'll lean in so that your conversation isn't really heard by the rest of the mess crew. And she says, I wanted to apologize to you, Rochelle. I don't know how much that means to you at this point, but I understand your reservations and feelings towards me, especially given your own upbringing and your own trials. I don't mean to think lightly of them, and I just wanted to let you know, sir, that I still view you as a friend, if that is something you wish to continue having.
Well, Sin, I appreciate your saying so. I appreciate your reaching out, but I think I'm going to need some time before I'm ready to call you a friend again. This is Starfleet means a lot to me. My father was in Starfleet. My grandfather was in Starfleet. My grandmother was in Starfleet. And you're serving aboard this vessel under false pretenses. It doesn't sit well with me. And I just can't get over that. Not yet, anyway.
I, again, understand your situation, and I honestly, if I were in your shoes, I probably would feel much the same way. But if there's anything I can do besides my normal duties, like if you ever need help with the projects, I would be willing to, as they say, bridge the gap at your convenience.
Well, if I ever need help with a project that your particular skill set is suited for, absolutely. The captain has decided that you're still a member of the crew, and his word is final. But I think right now we're going to have to keep it professional.
As you wish. Thank you for your time. And then
thank you for reaching out.
Oh, yeah, so she'll nod, and she will very pointedly pick up her tray and go sit somewhere else. Of course, given the mess hall is tiny, it's not that far of a distance away, but it's still a kind of physical separation that does kind of signal the end of the conversation.
Yeah, I think Risho will pack up his stuff and go to his quarters to do whatever prep he needs to do before duty shift. Maybe go in a little bit early if need be.
Okay. All right, so did anyone else have anything they wanted to do, or should we skip ahead a tiny bit?
Did you see my whisper?
I did. Wilhelm. Who was Wilhelm?
He is in the supporting characters, second last.
Oh, him. I remember him now. All right, so, Captain, in your ready room, there is a beep at the door.
Enter.
And enters is a character I shall let Crowley explain.
Wilhelm stands about 5'10", skinny build, balding. He looks older for what his rank should be. Think of Picard never advancing further than ensign. And he walks in, he looks at you, Captain, and he does the British salute. And he goes, Captain! Good to see you, sir.
At ease, Crothers.
Thank you, sir. May I sit, please?
Yes, please. I gesture towards the chair.
He'll walk over and pull out a chair, and then realize he didn't pull it all the way, and then pull it out the rest of the way and sit down. And he's holding a data pad, and he's just kind of fidgeting with it.
Is there something on your mind, Ensign?
Oh, I'm the new transfer from the Bellafon. I'm your expert in your spine, sir. And same with the. He looks around like, oh, he's not. With the commander, I am responsible for maintenance, fine tuning, and any operations that is needed upon your spinal column and the commander's lung.
I see. I'm glad to have you aboard.
If it's at all possible, I would like to schedule an appointment. I have no doubt in the good doctor's skills, but I would prefer to have my own readings, if possible, at your earliest convenience, sir.
I suppose we could do it now.
Uh,
For
you
sake
wish
of
to go to the
argument, you
sick
can
bay?
have a medical tricorder on you.
Sure. All right. He pulled out his tricorder. He's like, if you wouldn't mind, sir, I just need you to stand and hold out your arms to
Yeah,
pose.
I'll come out into the central area in the office.
And start scanning. He just. Do I have to roll anything for scanning?
Yeah, let's do
Try and get
another
a-
momentum generator. Why not? We'll call this a control plus science. No, I think it's reason plus science is the main scanning thing, so let's stick with that. Reason plus science, difficulty 1.
Did our momentum change after Maddox check in the holodeck?
Now I'll let you know when we do an official scene change.
Bioengineering applies? Bioengineering focus?
Yeah, I'll allow it, sure. Alright, so you don't get any extra momentum, but with a successful scan, yeah, you see that the Captain Tahan is in tip-top shape. His spine seems to be more or less in order. You might note a small discrepancy, and what's the word for it? Like when tissue builds up, like natural tissue builds up around an implant. I forget what that's actually called.
No.
But it's nothing threatening. It's nothing, major. At best, it might, hamper a very minuscule amount of neurotransmitters. But it's something that if someone was super anal or super into making sure everything was 100%, they might notice it.
Any discomfort, sir? Any irritations, pinching, spasms?
Yeah, I suppose my left leg has been a little tingly when if I've been sitting too long. But never for more than maybe a minute.
It could be a sign of neural degradation along the spinal column. We might have to do a full... He's just muttering to himself. Okay. I would like to do a full physical at your earliest convenience. This will probably set you back a couple of hours. I want to test your legs in conjunction with your spine. I'd like to do that in the safety of the sick bay, of course, sir.
All right, I will schedule that with you for sometime in the next few days.
Excellent. But I forgot to introduce. I am Wilhelm Carruthers, sir. Sorry.
Yes, I read your report when you transferred aboard.
Right. If there's anything else, sir, I would like to get set up in sickbay and make my own little spot, not to disturb Dr. Dore.
Absolutely, and you don't have to bother about that. He's very friendly, and I will offer Carruthers a reassuring handshake.
I hold up the wrong hand and I look and I go take the other hand. It's like, good to meet you, sir.
All right, dismiss Stinson.
Still shaking his hand. Right. And then I'll leave.
Alright, that's an interesting character. I like him. Alright, so I think that's everyone. So now we can maybe go to the bridge and skip ahead. The next hour and a half, maybe 2 hours pass, and eventually you arrive at your destination. You find, as the Arcadia drops out of warp in the same system of the Orion wormhole, that the Bellerophon, the Intrepid class starship that has come out this far, is kind of taking up station keeping outside of the wormhole. As you approach on impulse power, Admiral Haru hails you.
On screen, Lieutenant Sen.
Yes, sir. And the view screen is of the interior of the Bellerophon's bridge, and you see that Admiral Haru is sitting prim and proper in the captain's chair. And she says, "Captain, it's good for the good for it's good for words hard. It's good to see you again. I trust your journey back was without incident."
I would say so. Although we will need to report, we'll probably need to debrief in person. But yes, I'm quite glad to be out of the shoals.
Yes, I read the preliminary reports you sent along. I must commend your work out there, and do not worry, we have both myself and Starfleet Intelligence and Starfleet in general noted Mondays and Maddox above and beyond performance.
It was quite exemplary.
Yes. Well, perhaps we should get to business. And she kind of leans forward in a sort of power business move posture, and she says, "I'll be blunt with you, Captain. Starfleet has tried nearly every diplomatic trick in the book to get the Orions to talk about the wormhole. All it's really gotten us in return is increased tensions with the Syndicate. We have no knowledge, no inkling, no trails, nothing that would lead us to figure out how they did this. The working theory is that they found a unstable wormhole and then used some sort of unknown technology to stabilize it. But again, without really engaging in a Black Ops mission, we know nothing."
And what are the projected responses from the Orions after we close their wormhole?
Well, that is something I was about to address. As you probably can figure out, we have made the official decision to close the wormhole. The plan to do so will require a ship on either end of the wormhole to engage a phase conjugate graviton beam. Obviously, we cannot send the Arcadia to the other side due to your, shall we say, less than reputable reputation with the Orions at the moment.
I'll take that as a compliment.
Indeed. So the Bellerophon will be the one to journey into Orion space. We're expecting at least a show of force from the Orion Syndicate, but we are fairly confident, and I am fairly confident, that it will not come to open warfare or a battle. And even if it does, I'm confident that the Bellerophon will be able to escape the situation unharmed.
Well, it sounds like you've got everything worked out, Admiral.
Yes, I only had one final thing to really let you know what's going on. Should our graviton beams fail to close the wormhole, we will be attempting a detonation of trilithium in the center of the wormhole. Obviously, this is not preferable, as trilithium is not exactly something we use lightly, but at the same time, I wanted you to be aware in case it came down to that.
Duly noted.
All right. Well, if you have any further questions, you know how to reach me. Admiral Haru out. Screen goes blank.
Ensign Risho, do you have the specifications from the Admiral yet?
I'm assuming I do.
Yep.
Yeah, I get them.
All right, let's get prepared on getting those into place.
Absolutely.
All right. So all my lore readings over the past couple weeks is that producing a graviton beam of this nature really just requires a graviton emitter, which you could reconfigure the deflector to do. And after that, it's just a matter of finding the right frequency. So it'll be a two-pronged task here. So, Risho, you're going to be working with Matic. And first, Matic will need to do a little bit of jury rigging to get the deflector to emit the correct graviton frequency. So, Matic, if you could roll me We'll call it a daring plus engineering, and I'm going to set the difficulty at its normal of 2.
Um, would quantum mechanics or warp field dynamics be it? They no.
I'm thinking no.
All right. E. All right. Still got a 2.
Yeah, you still got a 2. So yeah, you are easily able to take what you know about the way the deflector works and configure it in such a way that it is able to emit the correct frequency. Now, as far as Richaud is concerned, once these modifications have been complete, you'll need to do a little bit of simulation work to figure out the quote-unquote correct frequency needed to close the wormhole. So I'm going to give you a couple options here and pick the one that you think is the most thematically appropriate. You could simply start at square one and just run straight down the line. I would say that would be a control plus science. You could look at the data and then make a best guess and then try from there. I would then call that maybe an insight plus science. Or you could just simply wing it when it's time for everything, and then we'll do a daring plus science.
Well, I like the idea of winging it, but I don't think Rochelle would. So let's do control plus science and have him start running simulations and going through.
Okay. I am going to set the difficulty here to a 3.
All right. I'm going to spend a momentum in that case.
All right, so you guys are at momentum 2.
Okay, and I guess what can I leverage into stellar phenomena? Would that count as applicable focus?
Yeah, I'll allow it.
Sweet.
Ooh, so
Okay.
we have some interesting things here. I'll be nice. Instead of the complication, I'll take the threat. So, sure enough, you actually only have to go through 3 frequencies before you find the golden spot, as it were. You're fairly confident that this will be the same frequency the Bellerophon will use, and it would be trivial for you to confer with the science officer, the ops officer on the Bellerophon, and kind of compare notes.
I imagine I'd be doing that as I'm going through, or
Yeah.
afterwards.
A little bit of both.
Okay. Yeah, so I guess after running simulations, Rochelle will lock onto this frequency that he thinks is going to be the Goldilocks spot, confer with the Bellerophon's, his counterpart over there, and when they're in agreement, run some more simulations just to lock it down, and however long that takes.
Okay. I'll say the affair maybe takes an hour just to get everyone, like, from start to finish. It maybe takes an hour to get everything ready. And before the Bellerophon goes in, did anyone want to have any sort of conversation with Haru, anyone on the Bellerophon? Very last-minute things.
I actually do have something.
Okay.
I'd like to talk to one of the cameloids. Who among them are the most willing to talk to me in a pleasant disposition right now?
I mean, Sin would be happy to talk to you.
All right, yeah, I'd like to talk to Sin in my office.
Okay. So, to your office we go. And I think I have Sin's token here somewhere. Oh, no, I have her old token. There we go. Now there's her new token. All right, so yeah, you call Sin into your ready room, and Sin just remains standing, arms and hands clasped behind her, and she says, "Sir?"
Lieutenant, I'd like to know, your fellow cameloids probably better than anyone else in the crew. How have they adjusted to life aboard the Arcadia since the discovery of your true nature?
Well, May I speak frankly?
I wouldn't have anything else.
Excellent. Well, I've noticed that Ensign Terra has been in very high spirits. She honestly, if I had to qualify it, sir, feels as if a great weight has been taken off of her shoulders. She is performing, to my knowledge, above and beyond what she already was, which is saying something. As for Reeve, it is my understanding that since his transfer to the sciences department, he has been performing somewhat better. Obviously, it's not to the high standards I myself would set for my pupils, but it is still an improvement nonetheless. As for myself, I am doing my best to mend the bridges that may have been burned or at least damaged in the process of this whole coming out situation.
Well, that's certainly no easy feat. If there were an opening for any of you aboard another ship, do you know who would be willing to take up those offers?
I would believe that the most receptive to that would be Ensign Reeve. The only caveat to that I can think of, sir, is that he would like to... Well, how do I say this? And she thinks for a moment. He wouldn't want to be a Bajoran in disguise, if that makes any sense, sir.
What would he rather be?
Well, I honestly, I don't understand it, but apparently he has a soft spot for a Gorn.
Interesting. But, I don't have any thoughts about that.
Yeah, honestly, sir, it flummoxes me as well.
He would be taller.
Indeed.
Well, thank you, Lieutenant. I believe I need to speak with the Admiral now.
Okay. And she'll wait just a second to make sure you are dismissing her, and then she'll filter out.
Yeah.
All right. So your conversation with the Admiral, is it going to happen in your ready room on that console there, or back on the bridge?
I'll just do it on the console here.
Okay. I'll put her token on the map just because we all love seeing her token. So yeah, you raise Admiral Haru, who also happens to be in her ready room, and she says, "Captain, is everything prepared for this operation to go underway?"
Yes, Ensign Risho has given me promising reports. As a former intelligence officer, I'd like to share with you one of my concerns dealing with the nature of our Cameloid service members.
By all means.
Well, certainly they have done nothing to earn our distrust. I think some caution is still warranted. Having all three Cameloids that have stuck themselves into Starfleet all aboard one ship, I believe, is a compromising position.
I suppose I can see that. What do you have in mind?
Well, if there's an opening, we've recently transferred Ensign Reeve to Sciences, where he has shown a bit more promise than usual than his previous posting. He's not an ideal officer, but if there is room aboard the Bellerophon for him, I believe that if you would agree with my assessment, that would be safer for Starfleet to maybe separate these Cameloids from each other.
I'll take it under advisement. I will return my decision to you in the next 15 minutes.
Okay, I have not discussed this with him yet, so I'm not going to force him to leave if it would be too emotionally draining on him to leave his two friends. I think that we should take that under advisement.
Indeed. Anything else, Captain?
No, that is it. Thank you.
All right, I'll get back to you in 15 minutes. Admiral Haru out. And, screen goes
So-
blank.
Yeah, and now I call Reven.
Okay. Yay, I get to play the Dance of the Tokens. I'm so glad I threw them on this map. So Ensign Reeve comes in, wearing his new blue striped uniform rather than the yellow he was wearing. And it's still... How do I put this? It's in order, but it's still not maybe lacking the perfection that other bridge officers might think to have about their uniform. Like, it's nothing that he's violating uniform code, but it is still just a tiny bit sloppy. And go ahead.
Is he still wearing the earring?
Oh no, he's still a Bajoran to everyone else. He has not shown his true form to anyone else. It's just, he is still Bajoran sans earring.
Okay, because I would actually have a little bit of an issue with him wearing the earring. Now that we know he's not Bajoran.
Yeah.
What if he had actually embraced the faith?
That would be different, but I don't think Reeve has embraced anything. Ensign.
Yes, sir.
If there were a posting on another ship, would you be willing to take that offer?
He thinks about it for a moment, and he replies, I suppose that would depend on the posting, sir.
But what if it were another science vessel?
I would be very open to that, sir. Would it be safe of me to guess that you are maybe thinking of transferring me to the Bellerophon?
Well, it's not entirely my decision. If her commanding officer agrees, then I have suggested it.
Excellent. Well, I don't know if my mentor Sin has told you, but my only request, that is if I am allowed to change ships, is that I would prefer a form that is not an emotions in himself. This.
Well, you can have that discussion with your new commanding officer. I do have one issue with your appearance, Simpson.
Please, sir, what is it?
Your uniform.
He looks very confused down at his uniform, and you can feel free to make up whatever nitpick that is missing or amiss.
Your badge is smudged. Your boots are scuffed. I think your pants are on backwards, or they're just very ill-fitting.
He looks down at his boots, and he's like, I literally just polished this before my shift. How did this... All right, sir, as long as you do not tell Commander Crowley, I will go rectify the situation immediately.
I'll tell you one thing that will keep you from getting a posting aboard another ship, including promotions. I will not have you representing my ship looking like that. Dismissed.
Yes, sir. And he very hastily scoots out of the room and tries his best to dodge his way into the turbo lift before Crowley can see him.
I'm already feeling this.
Crowley senses a disturbance in the force. All right. Anyone else you want to call into your office, or can I do the response from Admiral Haru?
That's fine.
Okay. So Admiral Haru comes back, and she says, well, Captain, I have a bit of good news. Though we do not have a position currently available on the Bellerophon, I am indeed pleased to announce that there is a position aboard the USS Aegeus that is currently en route to a sector of the Alpha Quadrant that has also not been explored. Obviously, Ensign Reeve, as he is known, would be quote-unquote off-duty during the travel time, but I believe that this would be a good fit for him based on what you have told me.
Okay, and if that's the case, I can have him transferred aboard your vessel for the transport. Although he has made one request.
That being?
He would like to stop being Bajoran.
I suppose this must be a Cameloid thing. What is he requested to be instead?
Last I heard Gorn, but I don't know if that is set in stone.
she thinks she like looks at you with squinty eyes like you might be playing a joke on her, and she says, I see. Well, I mean, Gorn have applied to Starfleet Academy before.
But none have been accepted. I feel like this might be an issue for his next commanding officer, and not either of us.
I fully agree with that assessment. I actually have the orders prepared, and she sends over the equivalent of the document to your console. And she says, if you can have him prepared, of course, assuming he accepts this transfer, we will be leaving for the other side of the wormhole in the next hour. So have him aboard by then.
I will do. And Admiral, who is the captain of the Aegis?
God, you making me come up with a name. Shit. Thought I had one. I didn't. The Aegis's commander is Z Lin.
All right. Well, hopefully she doesn't hate me too much for this.
Well, from what I know about Z, is that she is a good sport about most of the more, how should we say, esoteric people under her command.
Very well. That's all I had, Admiral. Thank you for your quick response.
Of course. Admiral Haru out. So yeah, I suppose now it's just a matter of how do you go about relaying this information to Reeve.
I feel like Commander Crowley might want to do that.
Okay.
I'm gonna approach Crowley on the bridge and hand him the data pad.
Okay. So on the bridge, Crowley, you're sitting in your chair. Captain comes back from his ready room, hands you a pad.
I'm just looking at it.
It is transfer orders for Ensign Reeves to the USS Aegeus.
I look up and I'm like, is that why he felt all weird when he was leaving the bridge?
I also told him his pants were on backwards.
Raise an eyebrow. Alright. Is this a request you made, or is this something we're doing?
This is a request I made, but if he accepts, he's cleared to go.
Alright. I will go break the news to him.
Okay. So I don't think I have I don't have a quote unquote ready or a room map available. But again, theater of the mind. We'll imagine you meet Reeve probably in his quarters. So you push the door, it dings, and Reeve says, "Come in."
Come on in, and I just look at him.
Yeah,
Eyebrow raised.
You see that he has very hastily packed all of his belongings, almost as if he's very accustomed to this at this point. And he turns around from his packing and he says, Commander Crowley, sir, I promise I did not enter my duty shift with scuffed boots. It happened during the shift. I did. And he'll just kind of babble a little bit.
I just raise my hand to let him to stop, and I just walk up to him. I hand him the data pad.
All right, he takes the data pad. His eyes widen a little bit, and he says, well, I would be happy to accept such a position. Am I to understand that I'd be leaving with the Bellerophon then?
As far as the orders look like, yes. I wanted you to do one thing though for me.
Of course, sir.
Keep the fear of me knowing that your uniform is going to be done properly, and go tell your other two friends.
Of course, sir.
And last thing, keep your head clean. Be good. Get me proud. I'm going to be checking up on you.
I wouldn't expect anything less from you, sir.
Have a good one.
You do as well. So, unless anyone really wants to see the reunion or the bittersweet goodbye of, Reeve leaving, we will simply say that probably about 45 minutes later, Reeve heads to Transporter Room 1 and beams over to the Bellerophon with all of his stuff. And the moment he's on board, those of you on the bridge get another hail from the Admiral. And it's a very short and sweet message. And she says, Bellerophon is now heading into the wormhole. Godspeed and good hunting, Captain.
I would have been down in the transporter room to see him off.
Yeah,
Okay.
same. I didn't want to make a scene out of it, but I wanted to give him the ceremony of it.
Okay, good to know. Good to know. But yeah, Admiral Haru has more or less told you that she's heading out. So any last second kind of wishes would be here if there are any.
I said what I wanted to say to him.
All right, let's blow up this marvel of modern science.
All right. So the view screen kind of zooms in on the Bellerophon as it enters the wormhole. And after a moment, it disappears from view as it slides into the anomaly. And after about 5 minutes, you receive a transmission from the other side of the wormhole that the Bellerophon is in place and ready to begin transmitting the graviton beam in approximately 160 seconds.
Bridge to engineering. Medic, are you ready to synchronize the beam with the Bellerophon?
We're ready down here, Captain.
Aye, aye.
I will reach out to Dr. Dore.
Mm-hmm.
Doctor, prepare for any possible mild casualties or injuries.
Of course, sir.
Thank you. I look to the captain like, you never know. Our consoles explode at all the time.
I just scoot like an inch away from my console on my seat.
You've also got that nice one behind you, too. So
I can't see it. It doesn't bother me.
How they discovered that gunpowder and oily rags are the most efficient means of communicating information in consoles, I'll never understand.
Oh, don't forget all the rocks that you put inside of them.
Oh, yeah. Where those rocks come from, who knows? Oh, dear. All right. So here's what happens. On cue, both ships engage the graviton beams. And everything seems to be working as far as sensors are reporting. The aperture of the wormhole is shrinking. The tensor matrix that holds it together is destabilizing. And as I said, everything seems to be fine. However, just before you reach the quote-unquote climax of the entire process, both Sin's and Rasho's console begin blaring an alarm. And I'll have Rasho do this. So, Rasho, you're seeing something massive coming through the wormhole. And by massive, I mean on the order of 10 million tons.
I'm gonna bring it up on screen. Captain, we've got a problem.
On screen, continue the beam.
All right.
Yes, sir.
So the view screen focuses on the wormhole, and you see that it's flickering and pulsating, and basically what you would expect from a destabilizing wormhole. But from out of the aperture comes what is best described as a space donut, to put it very simply. The structure that comes out is approximately 1.8 kilometers in diameter. It seems to be rotating, and it has a Class M nitrogen-oxygen atmosphere in the interior of the torus. So that comes out of the wormhole and begins drifting away from it. My main question becomes, do you continue the graviton pulse? And do you take any scans of this new object structure?
Yes and yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I also want to know if Sin is still in contact with the Bellerophon.
Sin looks up at you and reports, "No, sir, we've lost contact with the Bellerophon." And almost as if to punctuate her statement, the wormhole kind of flashes like Q might and completely dissipates. It is gone.
That was
Yeah,
not
well-
expected at this point, I'm guessing.
It's a little bit early, but it's still within parameters.
Okay.
Yellow alert. Rochelle, let's get a scan of that object.
Aye, Captain.
All right,
I
so
want to scan it too.
okay. So Rochelle, this is going to be a reason plus science, and the ship will assist with a sensors plus science. And the difficulty here, I'm going to make a 2.
Shit.
All right, a
I
complication.
can re-roll stuff. All right. Yeah, I'm gonna re-roll that 20.
Okay.
The Arcadia really wants to help. It
Oh, yeah.
rolled a 1.
And yeah, I want to try and identify it.
So that should be
Possible.
4 successes in total, I believe.
Yep. So 2 momentum.
Does that put us up to 4, or have we lost one?
We'll put you at 3. Yeah, we'll call this a scene change.
Fair enough.
So, Rochelle, I'm going to read you a little bit, and if you have further questions, you can, of course, spend momentum to ask questions. So again, the torus-shaped structure is about, it's a little under 2 kilometers in diameter. The rotation it seems to be doing is providing somewhere between 0.9 and 1 g of artificial gravity due to centrifugal force. The interior is covered with 2 types of environment. You see suburbs, so like housing and bits of greenery that would suggest, like a standard suburb back on Earth. And you also see a rural type environment. So things like farmlands and great swaths of sweeping meadows, things of that nature. And again, you detect a nitrogen-oxygen atmosphere suitable for most humanoid life, as well as close to 50,000 distinct life forms that do not match any on record. In addition, the interior space of the torus, so like at the actual center of the space donut, is a system of mirrors that seems to be reflecting light and providing light to the interior of the torus. There is also a 0G hub connected to the ring via spokes. And there are 2 starships of unknown design that are currently docked at this hub. Sensors indicate that they possess warp capability, but only to a maximum of warp 5.
Okay. Just so I know what, to get the picture in my head. So it's a ring shape, yeah?
Yeah,
With spokes, like a bicycle, basically, or
Yeah.
more like a wagon wheel, I guess.
yeah, something like
and
that.
on the exterior of the ring, it's like a clear, window dome almost. If a dome was to extend all the way around the outer edge of the donut,
Yeah,
am
that
I
would be
understanding
correct.
that correctly?
Yeah.
Okay. So I will relay the relevant information about life signs and whatnot as I'm picking it up, and so I've got the free momentum to spend on asking a question. Are the scanners able to detect age of this object? Am I able to determine if it was built recently or if it's somewhat older? Yeah.
You would know based on the general. How do I want to say this? I'll give you two answers for the price of one. So your sensors indicate that the rings and the vessel, or the ring and the vessels, are made out of a chondrite nitrium alloy, which you would know makes them rather difficult to damage. In particular, they're pretty much invulnerable to photon torpedoes, which is saying something. But with this information in mind, you're able to do a little bit of, well, not carbon dating, but something similar. And you're able to determine that the structure was created about a century ago. So it's at least 100 years old. 100 years old.
Okay. I will relay that as well. Do we have any other questions we want to ask about it as a group?
Is there a communications relay that we could talk to them with?
Ooh, do they seem to have noticed us? Like, are they scanning us, or are they reacting to us in any way?
Yes and no. So obviously, you, Rasho, and Sin would pick up a very basic scan coming from the Taurus,
Mm-hmm.
but Sin will kind of she'll squint her eyes at what she's seeing on her readout, and she'll report, Captain, I don't think they're able to receive us at the moment, or receive our hails anyway. If this is what I think it is, and she'll kind of highlight a region on the view screen. Their transmitter or transceiver appears to have been damaged. So while they may be cognizant of our presence, we may not be able to communicate with them at this current moment.
I see. Have they scanned us yet?
They're in the process of doing so, sir.
Okay, let's lower shields. Let's let them have a little bit of a look.
If they're able to scan us, we could modulate our frequency back into their scanners. Morse code, potentially?
That's an excellent idea. Let's do that.
Okay. So I believe there's an actual task for this. So let's see what I can find. Starship rules, communications. All right. So yes. All right. So the task in question here is going to be a control plus engineering, assisted by the ship's communications plus engineering. And due to the fact that this is an alien ship, I'm again going to make the difficulty a 2. And I'm guessing you want Sin to do this, since that's kind of her role whenever she's not tactical? Maybe?
Yeah, probably.
That works for me.
Okay. So would anyone like to roll for Sin, or should I?
Oh, we lost someone.
I'm fine with
Medic.
you rolling for Sin, but we as a group should decide if we're going to use any momentum.
Do we know how difficult the task is?
It is a 2.
2?
I could do 1 extra die so that we could have 4 dice instead of 3, but I don't think anything after that would be necessary.
Sounds good.
All right. So again, Sin is rolling control plus engineering, and the Arcadia does at least get 1 assist, so that's good. Is anyone rolling for Sin, by the way, or should I?
Oh, I thought you were doing it.
All right, I'll do it. All right, so control plus engineering. She has a focus, since this is literally what she's built for. Oh, good job. So, yeah, you guys get 2 momentum. Very good. So, in modulating your scanning frequencies and other such instrumentation to basically do the equivalent of Morse code, or a very basic understanding of, hey, we see you, hi, we're here, kind of a thing. And Sin reports, sir, I have established a very basic dialogue with them, and if I understand correctly, they have provided us a landing zone on their central hub.
Very well. I'd like to assemble an away team in a shuttle to land there.
All right. Who you taking on your away team as I move some tokens around?
I think I'd like to go just because first contact's kind of a jam.
Okay.
So, Crowley, do you have a supporting? Do you have a supporting character that you would like to take?
Carruthers. He actually had the couple of focuses in computers and experimental technology.
Very nice. So Crothers is coming along.
And then I think Risho and Matic would be very useful as well.
Okay.
So that would leave the ship's command under Crowley and Sin, and then, yeah, I think that's everyone.
Okay. All right. So to set the scene, and this will be a scene change, so make sure to lose one momentum. You head down to the shuttle bay, pile on in, and you launch out from the Arcadia shuttle bay and begin your way to the inside of the Taurus. And as you get closer, you're able to, again, make out more visually now just how pristine and how... I hesitate to use the word futuristic, but this is some feat of engineering that is, while Starfleet is capable of doing it, it would be at a great cost, and it would probably take them a while. So it's a little bit awe-inspiring, depending on your character's feelings, but it's nothing like super far out there like a Dyson sphere.
Is it just the same concept, but on a much smaller scale?
Sort of, and to kind of peel back the DM screen a little bit. So technically, what this is a Stanford Taurus. You should be able to find that pretty easily on a wiki. And a Stanford Taurus was a thought experiment that NASA did of potential space habitats. So they can, if I remember the article correctly that I read, they can support anywhere between 10,000 and 100,000 individuals in this structure. And really, it's just a matter of positioning the mirrors and other light-emitting sources so that there is a pseudo night-day cycle in the ring.
Oh, kind of like Elysium, right?
I was actually just looking at pictures of that.
I
But,
was about to say it's like the thing off Halo.
Well, it's not quite Halo, because Halo is just a ring world, but Elysium is a good comparison. The main difference, though, if I remember Elysium correctly, this is much less dense. Like, if I remember Elysium was, like, packed wall to wall with, buildings and other structures.
yeah, in Elysium, the habitat was on the interior of the ring, whereas, if I understood your description correctly, this is on the exterior.
Oh, God, 3D dimensions. So, okay. So we have a donut, right?
Yep.
The exterior of the donut is basically the solid form. And then if you were to go inside the donut and run along the outer skin of the donut, that's where the habitat is.
It's more like a bicycle tube, and you're on the inside of the tube?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. So I'm going to push you guys onto this as I go ahead and read my little blurb. So,
Oh, I just posted a picture of very similar to that.
nice.
In fact, the exact same one. All right.
Well, there we go. You are able to proceed to the coordinates that were given to you. And sure enough, you find waiting for you is a docking bay of sorts. It is similar to the ones in DS9 where the ship goes down into the room and then the door closes over top of them. And once you've landed and the doors begin to close, sensors report that it is pressurizing, that the room is pressurizing. And after about a minute or two of waiting, you are able to step outside if you so wish.
I'll go ahead and do that.
Okay. So, I'm going to put a couple tokens on the screen, and these will be our aliens for the adventure. So, when you step out of the shuttle, waiting for you are 3 aliens. They all appear to be bipedal in nature. They have tall, slender bodies that are covered in feathers and soft down. The coloration seems to differ between each member of the species, but the general theme seems to be a sort of dark gray matched with these vibrant hues, such as like neon green at their extremities. Rather than arms, they have these sort of 4 whip-like extensions that end in claws, and their head, as you can see in their picture, kind of sits atop a long bird-like neck. And several clusters of what you're guessing are their eyes kind of stare back at you. And the aliens kind of wait for you to walk up to them before they really respond in any sort of fashion.
Greetings, I am Captain Athos Tahan of the Federation Starship Arcadia. We come in peace, and we wish you good health and long life.
So, surprisingly, the Universal Translator works for once. Yay! So, the lead one, or at least the one that seems to be willing to talk first, stepped forward and kind of does a sort of sweeping motion with his upper arms. And he says, I am Sakan, or Sequan. I am a member of the species known as the Kreeshee. I welcome you to our humble establishment.
Thank you for inviting us. We were surprised to see you come out of the wormhole.
Yes, we were very curious about the phenomenon. What can you tell us about it?
It was our understanding that it was an artificial wormhole made stable.
An artificial wormhole made stable. Interesting. Then we have traveled through space to a different location. This is interesting. And he turns and confers with his other 2 Kreeshee. And even with the Universal Translator, there's some times when Klingon doesn't go through. So in a very bird-like chirping and other such conversation they have very quietly. And then Sequan comes back and says, This wormhole, may I ask what the nearest system is?
I can tell him the 2 systems.
Okay. So he takes in this information and kind of cocks his head to the side and says, I am unfamiliar with these systems. Crow, could you please go and ascertain what it might be, where we might be? And one of the Kreeshee, who must be Crow, kind of nods his head and he scurries on off, leaving you with Sequan and another Kreeshee. So Sequan kind of says, while we wait for those results to come back, I would like to extend our hospitality. If you don't mind a little bit of 0G after we leave this room, then I would be happy to take you to our president, where she might be able to answer some of the questions you might have, and vice versa.
That sounds excellent. And if I may, let me introduce the rest of my crew. This is one of our medical personnel, Ensign Carruthers. This is my Chief of Operations, Ensign Richaud, and my Chief of Engineering, Lieutenant Maddock.
So Sequan bows his head to each of you in turn and says, Crawlers, Richaud, Maddock. Understood. Well, if you gentlemen would follow me. And he turns and kind of head towards the door. And as he steps out into the threshold, or steps over the threshold, you immediately tell that outside of this room is 0G. So it is probably like, they've obviously grav-plated the landing pad for convenience sake, but everything in this hub that isn't like the main part of the Taurus is 0G. So, out of curiosity, is anyone spatial sick? As I've come to coin the term.
Carruthers is.
Oh boy. Crothers, roll me a. We'll call it a fitness plus con. Let's call it a fitness plus con.
Oh, his weakest. His weakest.
And we'll call the difficulty a 2.
He's not even going to get. He's only going to get an 8. You have to roll 8 or lower.
Oh dear. Alright, so, yeah, Crothers, you're having a rough time. You never did well back in the academy during Zero-G training, and now you're just sort of... You're not flailing about, but you are definitely not the graceful swan that some of the others in the party might be.
Doesn't help that I'm constantly looking at my tricorder as I'm scanning the captain, just for a spot. Like, oh god.
Yeah, you're probably like somersaulting through the air while everyone else is just kind of floating forward.
Just upside down, floating like, oh, this is not great.
Yeah, it's very disorienting.
Can
But
Rochelle make an effort to kind of help and stabilize him?
you certainly can. I'd call for a same roll, but I'm only going to make the difficulty here a 1.
And sorry, was a fitness and
Con.
con? All right. Oh no! All right.
Yeah, so
God, this is pretty hopeless, apparently.
you don't help, but you also don't hinder. So, yeah, Crothers is still just kind of twirling through the air.
So this is on the like the habitat area of the torus where there's 0G.
No, this is the inner spoke, like the center of a bicycle wheel.
Oh, I see now. Okay.
Yeah, and you're being led. You can kind of like look out the windows that are in this 0G habitat. You're being led to what are the spokes of the wheel, so that you can then be to the actual habitat itself.
Well, so did we land in like the very center of all the spokes?
Yep.
Okay, I got it now.
All right. So, as you kind of float along, Saquon kind of looks back at you, and he says, "This might be a little presumptuous of me, but I am curious. How is it that you came to be in this place?"
I suppose I don't understand the meaning of your question. To be on this side of the wormhole?
Correct.
Well, I would like to save that conversation for your president, but we were your explorers. We were in that area of space because we had not been there before.
Ah. Well, I shall let our president explain, but I think you will find that we are of kindred spirits. And yeah. At this point, basically you're taken to the beginnings of one of the spokes, and you float, well, most of you float gracefully into this glorified elevator. And after a moment, the gravity kind of kicks in, and all of you feel yourselves landing gracefully on your feet, except for Crothers, probably lands on his back. And you are then, I wouldn't say hurtling, but very quickly you are heading towards the actual habitat. And now that you're seeing it up close and not through a view screen, it's probably a little bit more impressive. You're seeing all sorts of greenery and blues and things that would remind you of Earth.
Is Crothers still like knocking himself around against everything?
Oh, no. Once the gravity of the elevator kicked in, he is, you're back at 1G, so he can pick himself up and move about as he wishes.
I want to offer him a hand to help him get it back up and say, you better be careful or you'll be your own patient soon.
It's not the first time I've had to replace parts, sir. Points to his eye.
I can see.
And I'll be more careful next time. I have 0G in one eye that's trying to always constantly find the horizon. It's very disconcerting.
It's quite all right, and I'll wipe a bit of dust off of his uniform.
Thank you, sir. I'm looking at the tricorder, just making sure my scans are being recorded.
Oh yeah, your scans are definitely being recorded. So eventually, the elevator stops, and you all kind of filter out, and you see again the habitat portion of the Taurus. And Squan just kind of turns to you and says, "If you'll follow me, I shall take you to the president's building." And along the way, and of course you guys can interject as you like, you do see several other Kreeshee. Again, they vary in coloring and size. But what probably really strikes you is you're not really able to determine if they have a gender. Like, all of them look very similar. If you were to try and apply human kind of thinking to it, you might think that the more quote-unquote girly colors might indicate female, but it's still kind of you have no idea kind of a thing. But other than that, they appear to be accepting of your presence. Like, it's not like you arrived on a planet and everyone just stops what they're doing to gawk. It just simply appears that a few people will kind of look at you and nod their heads and then return to whatever they're doing along the way.
Do any of us see any sort of like weapons on anyone? Like, getting at, like, are they like gun wise?
I would say the only thing that you've seen that could maybe be considered a weapon is that you do pass by a butcher's market, and obviously they are butchering some form of meat. But yeah, you don't see any phase pistols or phaser rifles or disruptors. They don't seem to have very much of that here.
Oh, are we armed?
That's a good question. Are you armed?
Yeah, I believe standard protocol for away missions is that we bring phasers, but only for self-defense.
Okay. So, Maddox, did you also bring your knife along?
Yes, I did.
Thought so. Okay. So,
there's Orion's about.
Yeah, secret Orions.
Is that just part of your engineering toolkit?
Sure, why not? I don't know. I'm sure there's something in the engineering toolkit that I can hurt people with.
Yeah, the plasma torch will do in a pinch.
Yeah. While we're walking, the other Kreeshee, have we gotten his name yet?
The one that has been named. He introduces himself as Zarit. And I can change his name now. There you go. He should have his name changed.
I want to talk to him about the more engineering aspects of all of this, because as far as I know, like, Starfleet doesn't have anything like this, right?
Right.
Okay, so I want to try to talk to him and be like, hey, like, do y'all share y'all's information? Like, can we do like an exchange of stuff to figure out, like, is there a way that we could figure out how y'all did this, and then,
Zarit kind of thinks for a moment and replies, I don't see why we could not share information. Our species is a very open society towards others. However, such a decision would have to be made by the president.
Is he elected, or is he kind of chosen, or how do you decide who the president?
She hails from a royal bloodline. However, much like... God, how do I say this? Because they wouldn't know how Britain works. She is mostly a ceremonial figurehead, a representative of our people. She conducts she represents our people and conducts most diplomatic affairs, but We are much a democracy otherwise.
Okay, so you have like a secondary parliament then.
Um, Something like that, if I understand what you mean by parliament, yes.
A bunch of people you elect to actually decide the laws for just your people.
Yes, that would be very similar.
We have a couple similar things on Earth and in different cultures on this side of the wormhole.
Interesting, interesting. I would love to hear more.
I guess me and him will just talk about that while we're just wandering on our way.
Okay.
I guess I should also say I do have the knife hidden.
I thought as much.
Okay.
Okay, so that's what Maddox's doing. Is anyone else wanting to do anything on the way?
I think Risho will be scanning things as he's going, trying to get the lay of the land, learn what he can without being, too rude or obtrusive about it.
Okay.
I would be talking to Saquon about all like the cultural like things I see, like if I notice any art or that kind of stuff. And I'm just trying to learn things about their culture.
Okay. Yeah, for sake of argument, we'll say you do in fact pass by what would be the equivalent of an artistic district, and you see these great murals of pictures of planets and suns and ships that match the kind of configuration of the ones that are attached to the zero-G hub. But I would like you to roll me a insight plus. Oh, but what would this be? How about an insight plus science? Or maybe even like an insight or a presence plus command. It's really hard to say what it should be.
Okay, what's the difficulty?
Difficulty is only going to be a 1.
And I assume my cultural studies focus would apply?
Mm-hmm.
Oh well, it's too alien.
Yeah. Even with this, well, you know what? I'll give you something. I'll let it succeed at cost, because I feel like I should have threat for ominous things. You're noticing that there is a lot of the same planet being depicted. Obviously, it varies from artist to artist how detailed and or colored it is, but you are able to make out that there's a lot of drawings and murals and other such artistic installations that are of this singular planet.
Saquon, do your people have many installations like this ring?
Perhaps that is a question best left for the president.
Okay. I've noticed in these murals the same planet being depicted. Is that a homeworld?
He fidgets a little bit like he wants to say something, but then he repeats, I apologize. I feel that is a question best left for the president.
Understood.
Oh, and none of you have a Betazoid along, so I can't tell you that either. Okay, good to know. Things you don't want your GM to say for 500. Anyway.
Well, for the record, I would have brought the counselor, but...
Can we use human intuition?
Yeah, you can use human intuition. Their tone of voice suggests that they're a bit fidgety and wary, but based on... I wouldn't even call it body language because you've literally just met the Kreeshee and you don't know what their body language is even like. It's not like he's being deliberate trying to hide something in particular. He just feels that the best person to tell you these sorts of things is the president.
Okay. This is just like, I know you said that we don't have anyone like just staring at us and gawking at us, but I mean, we are a new culture that we literally just met. Like, we just met each other like 5 minutes ago. Are there people following us, like security wise? Like, would Matic probably notice someone who kind of peeks around the corner and then disappears real quick, or someone who was there whenever they walked by, but if he turns around, they're not there anymore?
Roll me a insight plus security, and we'll make this a difficulty 2.
Set security. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. If there are any, you're not seeing them. But the keyword being if there are any. But yeah. If that's everyone, I think. Let's skip ahead a tiny bit. So, eventually, you guys arrive at about a 3-story tall building. It's kind of blockish in nature. The material is of a matte gray, and it is also windowed in all fronts. In fact, it's almost like a glass house in how much glass is present. But Squan and Zaret lead you inside, and they have a brief conversation, again, in the Kreeshee language that doesn't quite translate because of the hushed tone. And then Squan says, if you follow me, I shall take you to her chambers directly.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I'm going to just go ahead and put her token on here before I forget. So, when you arrive in the president's main room, it is actually really similar to how the White House's actual main room is set up. So it's circular in nature, much like the Oval Office, or maybe it's more of an oval. You get the idea. There is a prominent desk that sits in front of a set of windows, and waiting for you is a slightly larger Kreeshee. Like if Saquon was something around like 6.5 feet, and Zaret was maybe pushing 7, the president is closer to 8 or 9 feet tall. So she's kind of big. And most importantly, as you might be able to tell from her token, is that instead of the kind of yellowish green, she has sort of a pinkish purple hue that matches the gray. And as you filter into the room, she stands and goes around the desk and bows very respectfully. And she says, I am Mistress Zaya. You may simply call me Zaya. It is a pleasure to make first contact with you.
I'll give a brief bow and say, I am Captain Tahan of the Federation Starship Arcadia. It is likewise an honor.
I see. Well, if I understand Saquan's pained expression, you have many questions for me, so please, come, sit.
So we were surprised to see you enter this area of space from the wormhole. And our hosts, Saquan and Zaret, have told us that you also consider yourselves explorers, as we do.
That is correct. And she looks to Saquan and just kind of gives him a nod. And both Saquan and Zaret just kind of filter out of the room, leaving you alone with Zaya. And Zaya, I guess, kind of chirps a little bit in a slight, like a merry chuckle kind of a way. And she replies, yes, we are definitely explorers, but I get the sense that yours is out of a curiosity and ours is out of necessity.
I suppose I'm sorry to hear that. I noticed on my way in that in your artistic representations, this same planet was depicted. Was that a homeworld for your people?
In a sense, our initial home world, our initial home system, really, was utterly destroyed when our sun went supernova. We were able to build structures such as these and take to the stars. However, the only remaining really legacy of my people are these habitats. Initially, we had 20 such habitats, but before we came through the wormhole, I was only in contact with 2 others.
Well, I would be interested to know which side of the wormhole you came from. Um, th- we are actually on the far side of the wormhole from our own home.
Well, if I understand Crow's report that he handed to me before Squan brought you here, I believe that this is what we would call a new quadrant of space. And she produces a data pad, or the Kreeshee equivalent of such, and kind of holds it out, not really sure who to hand it to.
I'll just look to Rochelle.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I will take the data pad and
Okay.
start looking over it.
So we'll say, for sake of argument, you're able to use your translator or your tricorder to act as a translator. And the data you're getting back from this data pad that she's handed you indicates that she comes from the Delta Quadrant.
That's quite the journey. Um, sorry, so it's indicating that the wormhole brought them from the Delta Quadrant, or they've traveled from the Delta Quadrant?
The wormhole did.
Okay. That is very interesting. And Risho is going to start trying to do some calculations to figure out what would have had to happen to the wormhole as it was destabilizing to cause that to be the case.
I do want this to be a roll. Let's do another reason plus science here. I am going to make the difficulty a 4, though.
I've currently got us at 3 momentum, if you'd like to use any.
And remember, determination is a thing. You could use your values to, maybe give you 2 extra successes to start off with. Uh-oh, did I lose everybody, or are we still here?
No, sorry, I had myself muted. Sorry. Yeah, okay. So determination-wise, I guess I will spend my determination eager to prove himself. Is that going to be applicable, do you think?
Sure, why not?
All right, so I will do that and gain those 2 successes, and then say 1 point of momentum. So I'm rolling 3 dice. And let's see. And would my focus in stellar phenomena apply, seeing as we're dealing with wormhole?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd allow it.
All right. Bam. There
Wow.
we go.
Yeah, you get a momentum back. Very nice. So, or no, you get more than 1 momentum. Hold on.
Yeah, that's 6 successes total.
Yeah, you get 2
So-
momentum back. Nice. So, Rochelle, you're a bit puzzled by what you're coming up with as a theory. Oh God, I forget the name of the wormhole. But do you remember that TNG episode where a bunch of people came to the Enterprise to bid on what they thought was a stable wormhole?
Yeah.
It's similar to that. That as you guys bombarded the wormhole with the gravimetric pulse, that the other side of the wormhole basically started to jump around, and for what might have been literally a happenstance kind of moment, the Kreeshee's habitat fell into the gravimetric disturbance of the wormhole while it was dancing through the galaxy. So it was a very chance kind of thing.
Can't even imagine what the odds against that happening would be. It's such a big galaxy.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna communicate that to, I guess, both our team and the Kreeshee, and I guess ask the Kreeshee if they have any experience with other kind of wormholes in the Delta Quadrant, and maybe some knowledge that we could use to help them get home.
Well, we do possess some knowledge about wormholes, but I would like to answer your question in conjunction with Captain Tahan, was it? Captain Tahan's earlier question. The planet that you see so much of my people producing in artwork is actually a representation of our ancestor, or sorry, how do I say this? This is a planet that is represented in our mythos. It is called Krarek, and I'm going to type that out because it's bird-like and annoying. Krarek is a planet that has said to be the site of a great conflict. However, prior to our arrival at this planet, this particular conflict will have been settled, and that an era of peace has begun. We have been searching for Krarek ever since our home system was destroyed.
I take it to mean this is some sort of promised land in a way.
That is correct, yes.
Well, I would be saddened if our efforts to close this wormhole have delayed you in finding Korek, but perhaps it may have gotten you closer.
Indeed, that is my hope. After all, Korek's location was never stated to be specifically in the Delta Quadrant, as you call it. It could very well be in this one.
Well, I assume we have a much better understanding of this quadrant of the galaxy than you did of it, as you would have a better understanding of your quadrant than we do. Perhaps we have some information that would help you find Korek if it's out here.
That would be excellent. I would be more than happy to arrange a exchange of information, if that is acceptable.
I think that would be ideal. And I do have to say again, we don't normally make a policy of unstabilizing wormholes. This was a particular circumstance as the culture on the other side was hostile toward us.
So it's hard, again, to kind of visualize what their face might look like if it were to kind of tense up like a frown. But I would think even in their body language, you would be able to tell that they're a little bit more stiff when they hear this. But still in the same kind of cheerful voice, she says, I see. Are there many threats in this sector, or this quadrant?
Well, I would say that the United Federation of Planets is a very peaceful place in the galaxy, but there are always other cultures who disagree with us, or one such culture from the Gamma Quadrant has exhibited some hostility, but no proper conflicts have happened in this side of the galaxy.
I see. Well, if you would care to use my terminal, I do not know if you brought a suitable communication device with you, but perhaps we can get you in contact with your ship and we can engage the transfer of information.
I think that'd be excellent. And I'll go over to the console and hail Commander Crowley.
All right, so Crowley, you get a call from the captain.
Crowley here.
Commander, we have made contact with the president of the Kreeshee, the inhabitants of this habitat. We were going to share some information with him. They are searching for a planet, and they have agreed to share some information with us as well. I'm sending you the specifications for a intelligence transfer.
Very well.
And I'll give whatever code classification is necessary for him to know what security level is shareable?
So that's a good question. Obviously, you're not going to give them classified information, but what sort of planetary data are you willing to share? Like, are you going to share stuff that you've seen in the Expanse? Are you going to share stuff that is in the Alpha Quadrant, that is maybe closer to Federation space? Basically, what area of the neighborhood are you giving them data on?
I mean, I think just like, I guess all of it.
Okay. Yeah, it really Krawrek could be anywhere, so that's probably a good assumption. So for sake of argument, let's take our 5 to 10 minute break here, and we will resolve the transfer of information when we get back. So everyone, take a 5 minute break. All right, I'm back.
I can continue when we're all ready to.
Okay.
I'm back.
All right. Matic is deaf and muted, so I don't think he's here yet.
I like that Carruthers is more focused on observing the data being recorded by the captain walking in 0G and on a structure like this.
Yeah, he's turning out to be an interesting fellow.
I'm trying to find out, like, how long of a stammer should he have? It's too long, too short, trying to find a middle ground.
Yeah, any character that's like not confident like that is hard to gauge how much of a stutter is acceptable before you're just kind of hamming it up too much, kind of a thing.
Yeah. I've been watching as I've been going along and trying to apply my own past experience with stuttering, because I used to have a very bad speech impediment. It crops up every now and then. The nasally part of it's always still going to be there for me. I don't know how to get rid of it. But the flubbing of words, I'm trying to bring back. But I'm also trying to watch, like, I can't bring this to Crowley or to myself after the game.
No, I mean, as you probably have figured out by now, I trip over my words constantly, so I understand where you're coming from.
It was fun growing up as a kid. I was like, what's this? I have to spend an extra hour after school in speech therapy lessons? Great.
Sorry if I'm being quiet. I'm just bunching down on some chips.
Ah, you're fine. You are fine. Gives me time to answer people in chat, because it does appear we actually have quite a few people watching today.
Oh, cool. I'm going to pop in then.
Internet famous.
Yay! Yeah, I don't know if
There's my
anybody.
voice.
I don't know if anybody here watches Shield of Tomorrow, but the Ophion crew got a shout out, and that was pretty cool.
Oh, nice.
Really, I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah, give me this timestamp on that.
I'm
it
not
wa-
jealous.
It was, if I remember correctly, it was either the episode before they went on winter break or the one before that when they opened a ton of fan mail. And Commander Beckett had sent them one of their patches, like most Starfleet missions, or basically like any kind of project in the real world has like a patch, and he had sent them the Sally Rides patch.
Nice.
That's very cool.
I was just going to say, like, of course the Ophion gets a call. They're the advanced new pretty ship. We're just an overclass. We're just an overclarified sensor dish with warp reactors. Okay. Oh, that's actually really cool, though. I do enjoy listening to the Saturday podcast when they pop up.
We have a small but growing following, which as I've said a few times, I don't really do it so much for the views as I do it for you guys. But I am very much pleased that other people are liking the way our game is going on.
I'm definitely enjoying it. A little sad my other Star Trek game for Saturdays every 2 weeks looks like it's got cancelled.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that's come up a few times where people, and I've noticed this in my own searches for games I can play in, there just seems to be a horrendous flake amount in the current community. I don't know if that's just simply bad luck, or if people are just kind of entering into the STA system with not enough mindset for kind of a Star Trek game. I don't know. I've just noticed it happens a lot.
I have not had that issue, thankfully.
Yeah, like I felt like it's been people get scared by the amount of in-character stuff you have to do. There's been a lot of games I've been a part of where I've had people go, my character says something intimidating, and then they just roll intimidate.
Right.
And I'm just like, nah, actually say it.
Yeah, I've got a lot of characters like that, but sometimes that's how they want to play, and you just you just have to learn how to run your game for lots of different kind of players.
Indeed. All right, Rochelle, are you back yet? Maybe. All right, Rochelle's not back yet. We'll give them till 5:10, and then we'll pick up with whoever's here. But on the same subject, what I found is really the best way to get players who match your play style is, as the GM, you have to do interviews. So you have to do an application, you have to do interviews, and even then, people fall through the cracks sometimes. Like the Ophion, for example. I had to replace Lindholm because he literally fell asleep twice during the game. So, I don't want to say it's a crapshoot sometimes, but you are very much searching for diamonds in the rough when you go for an online game. And I am very thankful that I found you guys in the Ophion group.
Yeah, I remembered when I saw the game first get posted, I was at work and I was like, I need to make a profile quickly. Jesus, go! Trying to text on a new phone that forces autocorrect no matter how many times you try to correct it on what your spelling wants to be. And I was like, this is a pain post.
All right. Well, I think Maddox's back. Are you back, Maddox?
Yeah, I'm back.
All right. Rochelle, maybe? Eh?
Nope.
Hey, he's here. All right. Let's get rid of the big old BRB and we can resume what we were doing. All right. So, we'll say, for sake of argument, that the information transfer takes maybe about 10 minutes. And when you come back, Captain, you have a data pad of your own filled with information that the President Zaya has requested. And just kind of an opposite way, the Arcadia now has a wide variety of information about the Delta Quadrant. Obviously, I'm not going to go into too much details because I don't see you guys going to the Delta Quadrant anytime soon. So, to put it bluntly, if Voyager was able to have this information, they maybe could have avoided one or two encounters with certain species.
It's too bad they were destroyed in the Badlands.
Oh, yeah. But in any case, you do have the datapad, Captain.
While this is happening with them, I actually want to try something with Crowley.
Sure, what you got in mind?
Since we have some form of communication with them now, I want to see if they are in assistance with repairing any of the communication antennas. We have a couple of worker bees we can send out.
I would say whoever you interface with in the maintenance department, let me give him a name. We'll call him Kissy, or QC, and I'll type that out. A QC, as we're going to call him, would reply saying, well, we would appreciate any assistance you could provide.
Alright, so yeah, we'll take a scan of the antenna relay, the communication relay, see what components are damaged, what we can replicate, or what materials we can provide for replication.
You have a few options here. I would think that Maddox's backup in engineering, God, what is his name? Alon. As Alon will tell you, you have a couple options here. The first is, and might be the easiest, would be to just replace the thing outright. The alternative would be, of course, replicating the parts needed. But even with your assistance, it would still take them much longer than it would be to just replace the subspace transceiver completely. However, the one caveat to this is that Alon will point out that the subspace transceiver technology that the Federation possesses is somewhat more advanced than the Kreeshees, so you might have a conflict of interest with the Prime Directive.
Could we replicate a communication relay that is equivalent to what they currently have to their technology?
You could, but how do I say this? It still would be a issue of
Because if they provided schematics and diagrams, we should be able to replicate.
Let me put it this. Okay, I think I've got a way to describe this. So, all right, so I've said donut a tons of time this session, but this one actually should hopefully make sense. So, imagine I was describing to you a donut. It has a circular torus shape. It is something that you bake, and it tastes good. But instead, when you go to make the donut yourself, you end up making a bagel. So while they share similarities, they're still very different types of food.
Okay. So I will go with the first plan is to replicate the components needed to repair it, to get their own array operational.
Okay.
So I've given them a brand new one.
Okay. And again, that'll just take a little bit more time, but for the moment, you don't really seem to be pressed for it.
Carruthers will finally snap out and realize where he's at. And like, oh, Oh my. This is... He just starts scanning the environment. Like, this is amazing.
So, out of curiosity, do you hand the datapad over immediately, Captain, or...
Yeah, I'll give him the datapad.
Okay. So, you hand Zaya the datapad, and, interestingly, she pulls up one of her own datapads, and almost like you've seen Andromeda do, she kind of places one claw on your datapad and then one claw on hers. And you see the claw-like extremities of the wiry arms kind of glow a little bit. And there is an instantaneous data transfer between the two. And when it's on her datapad and in her knowledge, she begins scrolling through it rather rapidly. And she says, "This is quite a bit of data. I honestly wasn't expecting this much. Perhaps I can narrow it down so that... well, one moment." So obviously not as fast as Andromeda does, but she goes through the information, running a few like narrowing searches and things of that nature. And after about 5 minutes of her working on this, she kind of looks up and, in a voice that would suggest she's smiling, says, "I believe I've found 3 planets in the immediate area that might meet our requirements."
That's incredible. I'd be curious to see which ones they are.
Of course. And she kind of holds the datapad so that everyone present can see. And she shows you first a Class L planet known as 2RWM. And she says, even though this planet is rather frigid, I believe it is fairly close to a habitat we can flourish in. It also has some indications of indigenous life, but I don't think it would be anything where we would be outputting a sentient entity. The next planet, and she changes to a Class M planetoid that orbits a Class T gas giant. And she says, if I am saying this right, Hitov 2 is a smaller planetoid and is tidally locked so that one side always faces the gas giant, which means that the temperature varies wildly on the surface, but it is still something that we could work with and make suitable for our own. But then there's this planet, which I think meets most of our qualifications as well as falls very well with the mythos of Krarek. And she switches the screen, and almost immediately, everyone except Crothers is going to notice what this planet is. And before she can even say anything, you recognize this world as Zoatis Prime.
Zia, I must tell you that this planet is already inhabited by a culture of similar intelligence and technology.
She looks a tiny bit tiny bit crestfallen, but she says, "I see. Do you know a way to contact them? I obviously would not want to displace any existing species, but honestly, everything that I'm seeing about this planet would fit so much into the mythos that if this information got out, the people would be clamoring for us to head there."
Yes, I think we could get you in contact with them. Sorry, I'm looking through my notes right now to make sure I remember which planet that is.
So add a character. I'll remind you guys that Zoatis Prime was the one with the Opterans and the Cavians, and where you met your lovely bug friend Jeffrey, who has the combat stuck to his nose.
Okay. So the problem is more that it's the Cavians claim it, but the Opterans were living on it, but are probably more interested in going back to subspace.
So, kind of. You got it mostly right. So the Opterans live in subspace, and they still come to this planet to mate and offspring, basically. And the agreement that you guys worked out between the Opterans and the Cavians was that the Federation would gain ownership of this planet. And that way, the two entities, the two spacefaring cultures, could coexist with one another with a third party kind of mediating. So right now, Zoatis Prime is a Federation world.
Okay, I will update the situation then to Zia.
Okay. So she takes all this in and she says, if the Federation is in control of the planet, is there a special process or special sort of procedure that we would need to apply for not ownership, but she thinks for a moment for the proper term.
Settlement rights?
Yes, that would be a good word, yes.
Well, actually, our only installation on the planet right now is a diplomatic base. We would be happy to work this out between you, the Upterans, and the Cavians. And we could be a third-party mediator.
That would be...
Or fourth party, I suppose.
She bows her head very far down, almost like how the difference between the Japanese maybe do a half bow. This is like a Japanese full bow of her head. And she says, I would be greatly honored and appreciative if you would allow this to happen. How far away is this planet exactly?
Ensign Risho, Matic?
Risho will say how far away the planet is.
Okay, and for sake of argument, it's about 3 days away at warp 6.
Okay. Do we know how fast they're capable of traveling? The
warp 5 was their limit.
Okay.
So like a week.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's at their max speed. So like their cruising speed would be like warp 4.
Warp 4 or probably 3.5.
I can make it.
Yeah. We'd be happy to escort you there.
Oh, go ahead.
You see Matic kind of perk up. Captain, chromium on their ship. You think they need it?
Yes. I don't think we'd be able to outfit a ship this large. We'll do our best to pilot them around the eddies, but I believe with the with Q out of the way, we just have to worry about the artificial ones made by the Orions.
I'm so tempted to have Q jump into this scene, but I'm not going to do it.
How does that sound, Q, huh? Where's your deck? Let me pull a card.
Oh, dear. I think for a one-shot, I'm just going to have everyone start with a Q's deck of many things and see what happens. Anyway.
Or it's a one-shot, we're all Q's.
Yeah, you're all Q. No. So, Matic, an idea is actually going to occur to you. But I do want you to still roll for it, just to see how much of a good idea you think it might be. So do a reason plus engineering, and this would be a difficulty 2 task.
I mean, I built a futuristic device in secret after being told not to. I don't think I have bad ideas. Alien engineering technology?
Yeah, sure.
All right. I only have focus. Hello?
Hi. There it is.
Okay.
Yeah, it took a moment for your roll to show up. So yeah, Matic, you get the idea that you could not only speed up the travel time of the Kreeshee, but you could also protect them from most of the eddies if you were able to extend the warp bubble of the Arcadia to be large enough to envelop this entire structure.
How much larger is the structure compared to the Arcadia?
So if I remember the Nova class correctly, you're like maybe 300 feet across. Nah, that doesn't sound right. Let's pull up the deck plans.
Meters.
Yeah, 300 meters. Deck plans. Where is the lovely...
180 meters is the length of the Nova class.
Oh,
Width is 43, height is 34.
Yeah, you guys are tiny. So they are a kilometer, or they are close to 2 kilometers, so 1.8 specifically. So you are actually a factor of, what is that, 10? 100? I think it's 100.
That's close enough.
Yeah. You're a tiny ship.
I don't think that's possible.
No, I think the power output for that would far exceed. If we had a
I
couple other
mean,
ships.
The only way I could honestly do it, I would have to shut off weaponry. We would probably have to put a couple decks on shutdown to where, like, even life support we would have to pull power from almost every single system in order to make it stable. And if we hit a single eddy, if anything goes wrong, there's a chance that everything goes sideways.
Hey, they traveled a long time already. They can just go at sublight for a few generations.
Alternatively, what if we bring a retinue of diplomats in our ship to Zoatis Prime, and if we come to an agreement, then we can focus on getting all of your people there.
She thinks for a moment, and then she looks very specifically at Matic, and she says, would it help if our own starships were able to create a warp bubble in conjunction with yours?
I'm assuming that they have their own, like, scout ships, right?
Well, yeah, so to remind you, the inner hub, the 0G hub, has 2 starships that are about the size of a NX class. So it's still a very small ship, but there's 2 of them. And you're guessing, just you probably as an engineer are guessing, that that's how the structure gets moved around, is that these 2 ships dock and then impulse or warp around this structure.
I mean, there's a possibility that we could try that. If there was room, we could dock with the other 2, and we could link all 3 of the warp cores together.
Zaya looks from Matic to Tahan. I think that might be a good plan.
I'm not saying it's impossible. It sounds like we might be able to do it, but I think the dangers of this area of space that we would be going through would warrant a more cautious and a slightly longer approach. It is still my judgment that bringing a few diplomats with us, and then if an agreement can be worked out, then we could begin plans to bring your entire habitat there safely. And in that meantime, we can work out and test further plans.
That would be acceptable, I suppose. Let me think. Who would be best suited for this? Ah, yes, of course. How could I forget? And she immediately kind of claps her hands. Well, basically the equivalent of hands. And in steps a very similarly sized individual. We're going to have to use theater of mind here because I forgot to put their token in. But a similarly sized individual, a Kreeshee, comes in. And his coloring is blue. And he says, Mistress Zaya, you called for me. Zaya turns to him and says, yes, indeed I did, Raki. I would like it if you could go with these Federation members, as we have come to know them, and see if we cannot negotiate settlement rights for what might be our Krarek. And Rocky just kind of looks out at all of you, bows his head, recognizing your presence, and says, I would, of course, be honored to do this for you, mistress. Will it just be me that is going along? And Zaya looks questioningly at Tahan to gauge whether or not one would suffice or if he wants, like, more.
We are a small scientific vessel, and our diplomatic accommodations are limited. But if you would like to bring more, that is your prerogative.
Zaya thinks for a moment, then looks back at Rocky and says, "You shall do just fine. You have served not only myself, but the Kreeshee people with distinction. I believe wholeheartedly you will be an excellent representative of our species." And Rocky does a full bow and says, "I am honored that you think of me so highly. But your will be done." And yeah.
Do we still have a pilot back at the shuttle?
Yeah, we'll say that some red shirt flew you over.
Okay. Well, I believe. I assume you'll need some time to get yourself ready for departure. We have a shuttle waiting at the central hub of this habitat. I suppose in the meantime, I would love to learn more about your culture and your people.
Of course. Zaya, Raki kind of excuses himself from the room to go get ready, but Zaya just kind of turns to you and says, "Well, where would you like to begin?"
I suppose in the public spaces, but I'd first like to communicate again with my first officer.
Please, go right ahead.
Captain to Arcadia.
Crowley, you would of course get this.
Crowley here.
Commander, we are going to be bringing a diplomat from the Kreeshee back to Zoatis Prime for negotiations. In the meantime, if there's anything that we can offer the Kreeshee, any assistance that we can offer, please do so. And if you'd like to join us, they will be giving us a cultural demonstration in the habitat area.
All right, good to know. I'm already assisting with repairing the communications relay. If I have a free moment, I will beam on over. For the meantime, though, I will continue with assisting with repairs here.
Excellent. Please continue.
All right. So, the away team is thusly escorted by the president out into the basically the open streets. And she just kind of motions around and says, "Well, I can think of a beautiful outlook over one of our Rivieras that might prove pleasant if you'll follow me this way." And out of curiosity, is anyone slightly familiar with the French Riviera, maybe? Either in character or out of character?
Nope.
I've seen pictures.
Okay. So basically, it's this area of lush greenery with these great mansions and other such, houses. And it's a very beautiful section of France. I'll see if I can't find a good picture of it real fast. But you're seeing much the same here that the president is showing off. It is a sedate river that is just kind of winding between these buildings and other such greenery. And it is... Yeah, I'm going to find this picture. Hold on. Riviera.
Just out of curiosity, how are the houses kind of set up? Like, is it obvious that, like, here's where the president lives and probably more the well-off people live, like in probably near the top with the larger houses and the better views, then as you go more towards the bottom of the towards like the river and all that, it's probably a little more clustered? Or does everyone look like they're probably about the same, like, wealth status?
So The closer you get to the center of the ring or the torus, which is where the river is, the bigger the buildings are, and the closer you get to the curved sides of the torus, the thinner and smaller the buildings happen to be. And past said buildings are just kind of sweeping mountains that provide almost like the effect of being in a valley. And I'm going to put this picture in Discord. But that's kind of what you're looking at.
Discord. Oh, nice.
I've got 2 squares dancing.
This would,
Oh, very nice.
this could bring someone to tears if I still had 2 ducks.
But yeah. So, you know, she shows you around this particular area. It's very nice. She kind of motions at the water and says, though my people are not exactly what you would call swimmers, we do occasionally have the occasional water sport and other sort of, I guess, beach activities over here. And she points towards a part of the suburbs that kind of goes to nothing and then it goes into farmland. She says, in that direction lies one of our many farms. That particular farm is a livestock farm where we grow and otherwise nourish our livestock. And over there, she points at a different farmland, is where we handle most of our other dietary needs, such as seeds and fruits.
Are these all indications that they do not have replicator technology?
That is correct.
Alright, then I know not to ask.
I have a question.
Of course.
How do you maintain a population with limited supplies?
Well, our farms and our provisions are such that we are designed to be a generation ship if need be. As long as we do not exceed 70,000 individuals, we are able to feed, clothe, and home anyone that lives here in the structure.
Fascinating. Are you telling me that the ship probably launched with a small complement and you slowly grew to the populace now?
That is correct. When it initially launched, if I remember correctly from my own studies, the initial crew was only 5,000.
Oh. But I'm assuming that they had hoped you would find your promised land before reaching excessive populations.
That is correct, and we need not worry about reaching the breaking point for at least several more generations.
Oh, good. Well, do you happen to have anything of bioengineering?
She kind of tilts her head to the side and thinks, well, I suppose that depends on what you mean by bioengineering.
Synthetic tissue integrated with organic tissue. Similar to like replacement limbs or finding new ways to cultivate food or other sorts.
Well, we do very slightly regulate and control the genus and genes of our livestock, but our medicine is perhaps not as advanced as yours. We have no real way to reattach amputated limbs. However, given enough time and enough bed rest, it's not unheard of for, say, one of our arms to grow back.
Fascinating. Captain, I would like to, possibly, if permissions from either side, to examine their medical data. If whatever they're willing to share, of course.
if they're willing to share it, of course, I would implore you to learn more about other cultures' medical practices.
Yes, yes. Is it preferable that I can peruse some of your medical knowledge?
Well, I think it would be best if I paired you off with one of my assistants. And she somehow non-verbally indicates that one of her assistants should come, and silently summoned, you meet Zaret again. And Zaret kind of goes up to Carruthers and says, if you'll follow me, I shall take you to one of our nearby medical facilities.
Excellent, excellent. Yes, let's sally forth.
Okay. So, Carruthers, you go off with Zaret to go have medical fun times. Was there any other big points that the other three of you, Matic, Risho, and Tahan, wanted to see, do, etc.?
I wouldn't mind having access to their navigation data to our system, so I can see what's necessary to help them mitigate problems from the eddies, and make sure they can get there in a timely and safe fashion.
All right. So Squan will be your escort as he takes you to one of the few institutes on the habitat. And that just leaves Matic and Tahan.
Does she have guards, like, besides that butcher shop? I haven't seen anybody with any sort of weaponry.
I'll let you roll another insight plus security. Difficulty here still going to be 2. Hey, you get it.
Yeah.
So, you notice now that there is a sort of like a secret service following her. They're not really doing anything to hide their presence, but they definitely are equipped with what looks to be some sort of like ceremonial dagger of some sort, but like they don't have, say, visible phase pistols.
Okay.
But for the most part, they're just kind of keeping the distance and staying out of your way and not being intrusive.
Okay. I think Maddie's gonna want to go try out like the local cuisine and stuff. If we shouldn't. If we need to keep. If we're just gonna go ahead and keep splitting the party right now.
The one thing I'd say is that you would probably have to confer with Dore or Carruthers to just make sure, or Andromeda to make sure you could eat them. But as long as you did that first, you could go sample some cuisine, sure.
I would actually like to see if there's any music or like theatrical performances. Obviously, we don't have a ton of time, but just go watch some stuff happen.
Okay. Let me just move some tokens around here, and I gotta put Crow's name in. So, out of curiosity, Matic, before I get to the captain there, which medical individual would you be asking for the blessing to eat some of the Kreeshee cuisine?
Let's go with Dure.
Okay.
I'll trust his opinion.
All right. So Dore will basically take in all the information that has been provided so far, and he says, "Yes, I believe it's possible for you to consume the Kreeshee cuisine. However, I would stay away from. It looks to be some sort of a blue meat. I would not recommend consuming that unless you are a masochist and enjoy great stomach pains."
All right. Yeah, Matt's gonna go do that and probably just take some scans here and there, see if he can find anything engineering-wise that might excite him.
Okay. So now with the captain, so you wanted to see musical performances. Um,
Yeah, if there's any going on.
there's one going on that I can think of in one of the big open squares. And to kind of describe it, it is almost like birds singing, which probably is, understandable since these are a slightly avian species. But it is almost like a chorus of birds singing together. It's a very pleasant sounding bit of musical performance. But you definitely aren't able to tell whether they are just simply singing a melody or if there are actual words that they are singing as well.
Do I have someone accompanying me to this place?
No, I think well, you have Zaya with you, but I think the rest of your away team kind of splintered off.
Okay, Zaya, do you mind if I record this music?
Oh, no, by all means.
All right. Yeah, I'll start recording that. It's quite lovely.
Oh, well, I don't really know how to say this properly, but I am a patron of the arts. I enjoy these sorts of things.
Well, if you would like to share with us any cultural data, like songs, music, audiovisual performances, I'd be happy to share some selections of my own from the Federation's cultural databases.
So, out of character, are you going to give her the full set of Pirates of Risa? Or
no. This will be a tastefully curated list, like the Criterion of the Federation.
So, Love Can Bloom, A Tale of the Romulan War?
Yeah, that'll be in there.
Or
also, Keisha Blanca.
Or Keisha Blanca, or 200 or 20,000 light years under cloak, or you only live several times. A little bit of
No, out of the bitterness of being unjoined, I won't show that one.
All right, I get the idea what you're going for. All right, so here's what I'm going to say to you guys. We have the option of RPing out each of these sections individually. However, we are kind of coming up on that 30-minute warning. So here's again what the options are. We can either try to get through everyone, or what we can say is that the things you learn will be during the downtime between sessions. And what we'll do is we'll pick up next session with you guys returning to Zoatis Prime and dealing with the whole negotiation process. So which would you guys prefer?
Well, I know Crowley has a couple of things he wants to do.
Okay.
And potentially Crothers.
Okay.
Yeah, we can keep going for another 30.
Okay. Let's see how much we can squish in before the captain has to leave. And anything we don't get to, we'll do in the in-between. So let's do Crowley, and then we'll do Carruthers. So what does Crowley have in mind?
Once replication of the components is started, I'll send a text message to Zoatis Prime's diplomatic station to let them know we'll be coming back with another set of aliens. And also trying to get a hold of the Bellerophon.
You eventually do get the Bellerophon, but they are very much in almost like the opposite side of the quadrant from you. So your message gets there, it just takes a little bit.
I just want to make sure they're fine.
Yeah, they report that everything was fine. They faced some minor annoyances from the Syndicate that fired upon them, but shields held and the Bellerophon was able to escape unscathed.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, other than that, I'll just stay at my post.
Okay. So, Carruthers, the medical technology and such that you're seeing. I don't want to call it straight regeneration, but it's very similar. The Kreeshee have a very similar biology to, say, lizards or other small reptiles, that if they lose a limb, they can grow a new one. And the other thing that Carruthers would note is that they have, I think the proper term is vestigial wings, so that they their ancestors might have actually been capable of flight, but they don't have that capability now.
Interesting. I'm going to be examining some of the medical data presented, and if I see any snack food, I'm just going to take a bite out of something.
Okay. They would have the equivalent of birdseed out, but obviously it'll look a little bit more palatable, so maybe like dried up corn or something.
Oh yeah, I'll definitely take some samples of that. And by samples, I mean nibble on them.
Yeah, they taste actually pretty good.
Wait, if they've got corn, does that mean they're also making whiskey?
That's a good question for you to ask.
Captain Gaines an alcoholic problem.
President Zia, there are some cultures within my world that have a tradition of cocktail making, and I always enjoy finding new ingredients when I meet a new culture. Are there any alcoholic beverages your people imbibe?
Yes, indeed, there's several. I obviously do not know the equivalent of such, but we have a drink that is, and I'm going to put this in chat because there's no way in hell I'm going to be able to say it. Skrinria. It is a favorite among my people.
Is that known to have any debilitating or intoxicating effects?
If you consume quite a lot of it, yes, but otherwise it gives you sort of a nice little buzz.
I'll be sure to keep that in mind. Perhaps I can make a synthahol version if needed.
Synthahol? Tell me about the synthahol.
Well, we were able to figure out a way to replicate the tastes of many of our alcoholic beverages without the deleterious effects, and they are served aboard many of our Starfleet vessels so that servicemen can have what they're used to drinking, but without suffering any performance issues.
That's quite a feat of brewery, I imagine. I would love to sample some of this.
I'm sure we could give you a case or two.
Excellent. So I'm going to put in my notes the note that you're exchanging a bottle of synthahol for a bottle of this stuff.
Does Matic find said whiskey in his course of trying out the local stuff?
Oh yeah. You find the equivalent of Skrinraw. That, it's a fun name to say. You find this bottle, and it is a very vibrantly colored purple drink. And it's bubbly.
I mean, he was told he could eat the food. So whenever he talked to DeRay, did DeRay also say, like, oh yeah, you could drink what they drink too? Or is this something new that I need? Okay.
He gave you basically a list of things you should avoid, and this was not one of them.
Duly noted. Does Crow recommend it?
Oh yes, in fact he will buy you a drink if you let him.
Let's go for it then.
All right, I need you to roll me a presence plus command, and if you have composure, that would apply here. Difficulty would be 2. Because this is really the only way I can think of, seeing how well you keep your composure.
I mean, we already know that Maddox the king.
I'm going to, as a diplomat, I'm going to start a drinking competition.
Oh Lord. Okay.
No, I'm not. That's the last thing Taha needs to walk in on. Damn.
All right. So, good news, bad news. I mean, you obviously start to feel a little bit of the buzz, but you're definitely not far gone enough that you are like wasted off your feet. You're still cognizant. You're still in control of your limbs and your tongue, etc. You just have the very beginnings of the buzz.
How much is a drink? Is it like just like a little like whiskey glass, or is it like a full on drink?
It's kind of like a wine glass, like something you would enjoy a nice bit of champagne in.
Okay. Um,
I would also like to pick up some like local citrus fruit if they have any.
Oh yeah. It would kind of be a combination of a strawberry and an apple. So I don't really think I had a name for it. At least I'm not seeing one of my notes.
Strapple.
But if you eat it, it is very much a different kind of taste. It is a citrusy blackberry kind of combination.
Very cool.
Yeah. So last but not least, we come to Rochelle. And Rochelle, you're combing over data with Squan, and I'd like you to roll me a. Let's do another reason, but this time instead of science, because you are, if I understand correctly, mapping the area that they could travel through. Let's do reason plus con.
Okay.
And the difficulty here will also be a 2.
And check if I have any focus that might be applicable, and I don't think I do.
Well, you guys also have, I believe, 4 momentum at the moment, so...
That is also a good point. Yeah, I'm gonna spend 3 of those and give myself some extra dice.
Yeah.
Could he not like connect to the ship and have the ship assist him in making a path they could go?
I'd allow it, sure. Though I think I'd be vindictive a little bit and maybe raise the difficulty. Nah, I won't raise the difficulty. Yeah, if you want to do a reason plus con, the ship will assist with probably computers in con.
Okay.
I'll roll for the ship.
Okay. Okay, so Rochelle blew it out of the water, but for shits and giggles, let's see how well the ship rolls.
Does it get anything or no?
Nah.
Well, it like focus always applies for the ship.
Oh yeah. I think it automatically calculates that though.
Yeah.
All right, so that's what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes,
6 successes.
6
so
successes. Yeah, I think you're maxed on momentum. You have full momentum.
It's
yes.
So yeah, Rochelle, you're actually able to discern a. It's a windy kind of path, but you are able to find a sort of a sweet spot that this structure could travel through at warp speed between the electromagnetic eddies on the way to Zoetis Prime.
Okay, and I'll communicate that with Squan. Based on my understanding of your technology and our mapping of the area, I think this route is going to be your most efficient and safest way to get to Zoetis Prime.
I see. He stares at the data for a moment and says, "At our current warp capabilities of the structure, it would take us approximately 3 weeks to get there."
I mean, you've been traveling for almost a century, as I understand, so another 3 weeks shouldn't be too much longer, right?
Indeed. Though I may not speak for the rest of my people. I myself am eager, but I understand that you can't have everything at once.
Well, maybe we can talk to the captain and your president, and you have those scout vessels. Perhaps an advance party might go ahead and start negotiations a little bit early.
Well, we require both ships to be docked with the Taurus, otherwise we cannot create a stable warp bubble.
Oh, sorry. Somehow missed that when I was going over your capabilities.
Ah, no, quite. Sorry, it would have gotten missed. And he kind of points to like a bit of files that was hidden under some map of the area.
All right. Also, out of character, if you had mentioned that before, I am half asleep, so sorry
Nah,
about that.
it's something that Matic would have if he decided to go through the whole plan would have rolled for. But since we didn't go through the plan and you're going with an ambassador first, it didn't come up.
Okay.
All right. So, last call for anything that anyone wants to do during the session.
Well, so long as Richaud has Squin there, he's gonna. I mean, they mentioned that there were other of these. What do we call them? Hub ships or Tauruses?
Tauruses, I think, would be the best
Yeah,
descriptor.
Other Tauruses out there. If they have any way of maybe sending communication back to the Delta Quadrant to inform their fellows that if they have found their promised world, if you know.
So Squan will kind of droop a little bit, and he says, "We could send a message, but it would take, by my estimates, it would take at least several centuries to reach the other Taurus ships."
That's unfortunate. And then travel time is going to be significant as well from the Delta Quadrant.
Indeed. I fear that we may be perhaps the only ones, the only Kreeshee to finally find the Promised Land.
Well, it's a big galaxy full of possibilities. Maybe there's a way.
That is the hope. All right. Anything else from anyone?
I guess.
Let's do Matic first.
Yeah.
All right. Just talking to Crow, I just want to ask him like, what's the major things that are going on in the Delta Quadrant? Try to find out what's going on in another piece of the universe.
Let's see. What can I tell you without spoiling things in character? Crow will report that Borg activity has been on the rise. I forget their names. The Kazon, that's their name. The Kazon have been trying to gather together to become a unified force, which is odd for the Kazon. And other than that, they're, the Kreeshee have just been sort of flying around trying to stay out of other people's business.
So he doesn't mention anything about a ship that came from another part of the galaxy?
Nope, definitely not.
There's a new unknown ship captained by a monster.
I guess whenever he mentions Borg, I guess try to figure out what data they have, like try to figure out what he knows about them and see if they have any techniques on fighting the Borg that we may or may not have tried, and try to see if there's a way to defeat the Borg easier.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I just kind of want to like just bluntly ask him, like, y'all seem very peaceful. Like, are y'all not very warlike at all, or you're just not doing any? You just don't think that it'd be worth it? Like,
Well, before our species left the home system, we were living in a veritable utopia. Though this Taurus pales in comparison, we are very much a peaceful race. We have little need for weapons, but that said, we do have some very basic weaponry if we are pressed against a wall. Which, to answer your question about the Borg, our personal Taurus has not encountered them, but sister Tauruses have been assimilated completely by the Borg.
Hello?
Yep, did we lose Matic? I think we might have lost Matic.
He was assimilated.
Yeah, Matic gets assimilated. Crowd turns out to be a Borg, and things go downhill from there. Yeah, I wonder if that's because of the server or if it's something on his end.
I think it's something on my end because
Oh, there you are.
Because you said I heard like the sister Taurus, and then I didn't hear anything until you're like, maybe it's something on his end.
Ah, okay. So TLDR, they don't have any special way of combating the Borg. The sister Tauruses, some of them have been assimilated, and again, they are a otherwise very peaceful race that doesn't really produce or otherwise go out of their way to make weaponry.
Okay. I'm assuming that they use this. Do they use the similar type of like the matter antimatter? Like, is that how they power their stuff? Or
Yeah, it's
okay.
It's quote unquote galaxy standard warp engine. Yeah, it's not like they're Romulans who have a literal black hole that they siphon energy from.
Okay, that's it for me.
Okay. Last call. Anyone else that we can maybe squeeze in this last 10 minutes?
Yeah, Carruthers will get what he needs, specifically into some samples or some scans of his own, of their regenerative abilities. And he will go back to the ship, and if it's taking some time, he will spend a couple of hours going over some preliminary ideas, and then he'll send off one message back to Starfleet to a certain individual, Maddox, and he goes 1 for biosynthetic, 0 for cybernetics, and that's all he sends them.
Okay. Interesting.
You know who Maddox is, right?
Yeah, he's the one who wanted to take apart Data.
Yeah.
It is that episode is actually one of my favorite episodes of all of Trek, but I won't get into that now during the session.
It's a really great episode.
It is. It's a really good episode. So yeah, I think this is where we'll call the session, and we'll pick up later. So players, stick around. But for those of you watching on Twitch or on YouTube, thank you for being here, and I'll see you future maybe. Later, guys.